Welcome to a new broadcast, exJW Soundboard. You may all remember the podcast we have featured on our channel called The Way Forward, hosted by Madeline and Christian. Well, Christian will be joining us live. Christian works every day as a life and career coach and has a deep interest in interpersonal dynamics. A few thoughts from Christian. He says, I help people think. I'm a critical thinking partner and a soundboard. I cannot fix, but you can choose to change your thinking. Changed thinking fixes the world, inside, and as a result, outside. So please join us on exJW Soundboard as Christian helps me navigate some of the issues I've been dealing with since leaving the Watchtower. We'll see you there. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to exJW Soundboard. And as we said in the introduction, this is a new broadcast. We have a special guest just in the backstage waiting, Christian. We'll pull him in here just in a few minutes. So he's our co-host, so he can come on and load screens, and I'll be the patient. Well, he'll be patient with me. So we'll see how that all goes. But what we want to do is encourage everyone online. Now, I'm gonna share a link right now. I'm gonna copy it and put it into the comments here. And this program is for you guys. This is for you guys to come on, talk with any of your questions, and it gives you a chance to talk to someone that is a professional that does this every day. I get on this channel, I talk every day, but I'm not a professional. So this channel is about fixing my faith. What does it take to fix my faith? I was in the exJW religion for 30 years. I got out in 2012, and then I left. I did nothing for 10 years. I did nothing upstairs. I didn't fix anything. I just carried on with life. I thought that's what you do. You walk out of the Kingdom Hall. I didn't realize I was in a cult. I did not realize I had some very steep indoctrinations put inside my brain. Didn't know that. 10 years later, after dealing with bouts of anxiety, bouts of anger, bouts of everything that you could imagine. And if you're an exJW, you're online here right now, you can imagine these things. So I went through 10 years of this, and finally my good wife says, enough. She knew enough about therapy that I had to start writing it down. And that was the start for me, writing things down. I ended up writing a book, a couple of books, 7 books, actually. If you go to Amazon, there's 7 books. But these are all fictional books. It was a way that I was able to escape as well as heal. And, but still, after that, I started this channel, and now about 3 years later, I'm still dealing with bouts of anxiety. And this last summer, I share on my channel every day. I share with you guys. I'm honest with you guys, letting you know what it takes to fix, what has taken me to fix my faith. It's a lot harder than one could ever imagine. A lot harder. So I feel privileged that we were able to get a professional on the channel. I don't want to take any more airtime up. I do talk a lot, but here we go. Here's Christian. Give Christian a big welcome. I'm going to move him to the driver's seat.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Vern. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, but I have to get up. My tea is just boiling. So go ahead, introduce yourself.
Get your tea, and we'll chat in the meantime. So, folks, good afternoon. Well, it's afternoon where I am. I see we've got South Aussie time really early. Welcome. And we've got folks probably from North America as well. So really good to meet you all. My name is Christian. I've previously, with my wife, done some podcasts that you can view on Vern's channel. So a quick disclaimer: I am not an exJW. Okay, so I don't come from that perspective per se, but I think I have enough understanding of what a traumatic background might look like. Now, in my daily work, I am essentially a career coach, and I help people with transitioning from one professional reality to another professional reality. But there are many parallels between moving from one profession to another profession, or from one country to another country, emigrating, so to speak. There's a lot of overlaps between that and also, let's call it, emigrating from a cult, as Vern just called it, into the world, where everything that you watch around you is a blind spot, and it's really hard to navigate. And it can create a great deal of, you're already traumatized, but I think it can create a great deal of anxiety, and small things can trigger you. So a while ago, Vern and we met personally, and we had a lovely meal together, and we decided maybe we're going to chat a little bit about emotional regulation and emotional dysregulation. So we want to invite
Mm-hmm.
you to ask any question, and we'll try to get to you. This is not just about Vern and me talking, but it's about Vern and myself talking to you. So, Vern, over to you, man. Thank you.
Well, thanks for that, Christiane. Yes, when we first met in Toronto, it was on our Toronto tour, and I know we went for dinner, and it was 3 hours, and they pretty well kicked us out of the restaurant.
Mhm.
But we chatted quite easily, and what I found, you knew quite a bit about XJW thinking,
Yeah.
so you have a lot of experience with people. I guess this is standard people stuff, or are we kind of different?
Well, I think it is actually standard people stuff, but people incur their trauma in different places, right? So I'm not going to say, I'm not claiming that what I've seen with XJWs is not unique, because it is, because I think the trauma is extremely deep. Coming
Mm-hmm.
from a cult like environment where you were never, where where what you think and how you feel about what you think is never ever validated. That is a hell of a
Mm-hmm.
thing to deal with, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
that is the beginning of trauma. If you teach a child from when they're very young that the only way to be acceptable is to be obedient, and to lay themselves down by whatever random rule the elders think up, you're going to get a child that suffers with things like trust, and they don't exercise, well, they don't develop the muscles to exercise healthy, reliable judgment over
Mm-hmm.
the situation around them. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can apply that to a variety of other scenarios that are not necessarily religious, but religious trauma is a big deal because it touches to the core of who you are as a human
Mm-hmm.
being, right? So I think it's from that point of view. But you said, when you met me, I seem to know quite a bit about the XJW community and so on. And yes, I do, through people that I
Mm-hmm.
know. But they keep on telling me stories that surprise me. Where I go, what? Really?
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite shocking what people have to put up with. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm not surprised that people finally get the guts together to remove themselves out of this environment, and then they stumble because the entire world looks like a blind spot. You've never
Mm-hmm.
navigated in that outside world, right? So yeah, that is why I'm here.
Now, I was going to ask, when we talked on the and I think we only talked twice, right?
Mhm.
So the last time, this is the third time.
I think so. Yeah, maybe third and a
Yeah,
half or something like that. But
something like that.
anyway, yeah. Mm,
So, what I'm trying to think of here on our last discussion, I was describing to you my anxiety I had on going on holidays,
yeah.
and I guess we talked a little bit about a lot of things. I guess we're changing our life, sold our house, we're not farming, not land. We had to figure a lot of things out this summer,
Yeah.
and still run a channel. We still kind of ran a channel.
Mhm. Yep.
We did the
Yep.
protests. That was something I wanted to do. I wanted to kind of. I've never had a chance to do that. And it wasn't a real protest. It was kind of an invite. It
Hmm.
was an invite to the XJW community to help people. So to me, that's not a protest. To me, that's an invite.
Yes.
And we had good success with it. And that's when we met you and your good wife. Did you
Hmm.
introduce your good wife to the community here?
I haven't yet.
Good.
They will probably know her as Madeline, and she and I have
Yeah.
done a podcast together.
Hmm.
Although they didn't see us, it was an audio podcast on your channel. Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Hmm. Hmm.
I meant because you guys did the podcast. You and JM Madeline
Yeah.
did these podcasts,
That's
and
right.
so yeah,
Yeah.
everyone has heard both of you. Everyone on this channel has heard both of yous
We,
talk
we we
about.
did a series of 8 podcasts. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. And we're probably going to be continuing at some point.
Mhm.
So so you mentioned something just a little while ago that I'm interested in. So you say you reminded me of the fact that when you said going on vacation, going away, created substantial anxiety for you, right?
Mhm.
And if I not to put you on the spot, but what was the core of the anxiety? Was it a fear that I'm not going to achieve what I want to achieve, or I don't know where to start, or that the anxiety is just so generalized that it just suffocates you? How
Mhm.
did you feel about that?
There was a lot of stuff going on with the holidays. Number one, we sold our farm July
Mhm.
1st,
Big
and
things.
then 2 weeks later we took a month and went. The goal was to get to Vancouver to go across Canada. So we did. We went to the island,
Yeah,
and then we worked our way. We didn't make a complete goal because we didn't get out to New Brunswick, but that'd have to be another year. That's a trip of its own.
sure.
But we got to Toronto anyways, and we did as much as we could. We went to 4 different assembly halls.
Hmm.
And so that was part of the goal. And then we thought, well, in between all of that, we'll look for a new place to live,
Yeah.
you know, because we have to figure out where we're going to live, what we're going to do. So there's a whole transition going on. And then to boot, I hadn't been on a holiday for 10 years.
Yeah.
Every other holiday I went on before that, several times in my life, I went to some all inclusives when I was
Yeah.
younger
Mhm.
and had to get away. I was making a lot more money though. I had a job. I
Mhm.
don't have a job, so we're spending $300 a night on hotels. We don't have a place to live. We don't have a lot of money. We're finding that the money we got off our farm was not enough to buy anything. Couldn't buy anything with it. So we had to make a lot of decisions. How are we gonna do this? Do we both have to go out and get full time jobs now? We sold, and we couldn't afford our farm. We couldn't afford the taxes on it. The farm was not creating an income.
Yeah.
The taxes are really high. We had 21 acres. It's an old house. You're always sinking money into something on a farm. And usually farmers have a little bit of income. They have reoccurring income. You're not doing it on a dozen eggs, I'm telling you.
No, you're not.
You're not you're not
So,
paying your bills on a dozen eggs. And yeah, it
so,
was stressful.
so, look, I'm not. I think anybody listening to you would recognize that um, what you just described would be stressful for anybody, not just to you because of who you are or because of how you are. I mean, this is
Mhm.
valid stress. If you have no income and you put together a really cheeky plan to cross Canada, on very limited money, and you're getting rid of your property. I mean, it is the majority of people can't even get their heads around that. So my
Mm-hmm.
hat off to you for seeing that through. But I think what I've seen with folks that come out of this faith is that they have very often fairly high general anxiety, and
Mm-hmm.
they don't necessarily discriminate between, is this valid anxiety or is it random general anxiety, right? So what I
Mm-hmm.
mean by generalized anxiety is you wake up with a knot in your stomach.
Mm-hmm.
You're in a state of fright or flight almost perpetually. And
Mm-hmm.
tiny little things are on a
Mm-hmm.
hair trigger and they set you off. I mean, to be anxious about real life events such as which you just described are totally valid, and actually that is how we keep alive. If you weren't anxious about
Mm-hmm.
those things, you would probably be dead by now, you know, because it
Mm-hmm.
is valid, and these are things that need to be taken care of. But I think what I see is that people suffer from generalized anxiety, and that anxiety on top of everything else is very easily triggered. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you know, you and I chatted about regulating one's emotions, or
Mm-hmm.
negatively said, emotional
Mm-hmm.
dysregulation, you know, and
Yeah.
I think the undercarriage of that is very often that you are in a perpetual state of easily released or easily triggered anxiety. And
Mm-hmm.
and I think that this is something important for folks to keep in mind. So I wanted, after you spoke previously, I went and did some thinking, and I went and dug around in some of my coaching materials and so on. And I thought maybe I'll just show you quickly on a slide here what the human stress response looks like, and and where it takes you body, your
Mm-hmm.
mind, even things like your behavior and your speech and so
Mm-hmm.
forth. So can I share a slide here
Yeah.
quickly?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm not going to be preaching here to you with slides. I just want to show
Mm-hmm.
you this quickly. So um, we call it the psychophysiology of stress. Um, so Madeline and I put the slide together. I don't know what happened to that R in behavior, but my apologies. So you can see in this yellow egg-shaped form, right? You face pressure, life pressure, but maybe you face the pressure of an incident, like your computer crashes when you need it most. Okay,
Did you knew about that, eh?
I I think I heard about that. So
uh. Yeah.
you encounter that pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what your mind does? You know, this is a very healthy system, actually. It keeps you alive. When you face pressure, you become hyper vigilant. Your
Mm-hmm.
mind goes, oh my God, what else can go wrong? I better watch out. And in a manner of speaking, your mind become catastrophic, right?
Mm-hmm.
You assume the worst possible is on your way, on its way to you. And
Well.
then your body confirms that. And you know how, Vern, you get butterflies in your stomach, your
Mm-hmm.
palms start sweating,
Mm-hmm.
your heartbeat increases, your blood pressure rises, and you
Mm-hmm.
get a headache, right? So now
Yep.
that noise cycle is beautifully on its way. You feel the pressure, you're hyper vigilant, your body screams, and it confirms the noise in your head that says, I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail, I'm going to die, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
die, I'm going to die.
Yep.
Now, outside that yellow are the two things that we can work on. They are impacted by this pressure, the vigilance, the psychophysiological reaction, the noise, but we can also manage them. So we can execute chosen behaviors, and we can get our thinking and our speech straight so that we can handle this noise cycle. I'll stop yapping for a
Mhm.
moment and give you a chance.
Well, I think the added thing that I think, well, I know coming right out. Okay, let's say you're coming right out of the Jehovah's Witness.
Mm,
Obviously, if you're in the Jehovah's Witness religion,
mm,
you have some degree of faith, right? You believe in
yeah,
Jehovah God. You believe in Satan, the devil.
yeah,
In fact, you believe that Satan's all out there. So when you get out of the Jehovah's Witness religion, uh, I had a I had a lot of anxiety. I wasn't sure if Satan was trying to get at me. I was having all kinds of visions and stuff like that. I was writing these books. Was way on into outer space.
yeah.
Um, I don't know. I questioned myself because of the religion. I didn't understand the what I was going through at the time, and I questioned everything. And even now, your computer melts down. Oh God, what did I do wrong?
Yes,
We start thinking like a Jehovah's Witness.
exactly.
It's there. I can't remove that. I don't know. How do you remove that kind of stuff? Or do we need to remove it?
Well, the thing is, it's really interesting what you mentioned there. So if you are traumatized, if you come from a traumatizing environment, your entire cognitive system learns to think in terms of crisis, right? That is sort of the filter through which you squeeze everything. You come from a traumatized environment, you are fantastically primed for crisis management the whole time, for self defense, for
Yeah.
making sure the demons don't get me, for making sure that I watch out because the world is full of snakes and
Hmm.
poisonous thorns, right? So your entire system operates according to that fundamental sponsoring idea, right?
Hmm.
Now it just takes a computer crash for you to snap right back into that kind of magical thinking. Oh, it couldn't be just the PCU that is old, or it couldn't just be that my battery had gone through its life cycle. No, it must be Satan, necessarily. You know,
Yeah.
so and and
Well,
and it's unbelievable how accessible that kind of magical thinking is
okay.
to us.
Here's what I thought. God doesn't want me to do this channel. I might as well just shut the damn thing down. That's
Yes,
how I
because
felt. Like it's
because
just like
you're
it's either black or white with me. It's just, and my good wife, it doesn't matter. We go on holidays. She's just having a hell of a time. She says, "You know what, honey? People spend double this and they go on these all inclusive. We haven't went on holidays for 10 years. We've been
yeah,
saving up for this. Look at it
yeah,
that way."
yeah.
And why can't I be like that? Why can't I think like that? No, I have to go into this crisis mode. Like, why haven't I fixed this already? I've been on this channel for 3 years. I can't afford to go and see $150 an hour counselors and stuff.
Mhm.
I actually checked into it. I can't, and they have nothing in Canada unless you know of anything. There's nothing for a 61-year-old not working who, and I'm not crying because we did sell the farm and we do have money and we're not
Yeah.
destitute. I look at Ruby's on the channel right now, and we should actually look at some of her questions because she just went through a hurricane. And there's people on this channel that
Oh
just
my
went through a
goodness.
hurricane and they have lost everything. And a computer hard drive melting down is the least of their
Nothing.
worries. The least of their worries. And I feel all embarrassed about this now. But I should be able to control this kind of anxiety Is it possible to train an old dog new tricks,
You
Christiane?
know, I want to just comment quickly on a few comments here, and then I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
get right back to you. Uh, Del Love says, I pushed this under the rug for over 10 years, but now started therapy and healing by watching YouTube videos. Fantastic. I would say you also need to talk live with people that know what they're talking about, if possible. Um, this is so needed, says Thrifty Treasure. Thank you. Ruby says, I've been going through major stress that I'm dissociating from. Well, sometimes the stress is so large, right, Ruby, that you have no option but to take distance from it. But ultimately, it's going to want to catch up with you, right? And we need to find little mechanisms, and I'm going to get to them soon. I just left the store after stress shopping, says Thrifty Treasure. Thank you, fully. It's a thrift store, so I'm not broke. Wonderful. I will get into this too, because um, sort of soothing by shopping, soothing by self indulgence, uh, maybe soothing by alcohol, soothing by substances is a very, very frequent thing for folks that come out of a stressful environment. But I'm glad you went to a thrift store. That's quite funny. Fear is a powerful stressor, JM says. Lived in
Mm-hmm.
constant fear, and that fear
Can
takes a while to dissipate.
I
Yep.
just want to comment on Thrifty Treasure. When we were, and I'm not afraid to say this, when we were on holidays, my good wife and I, we have what we call in Canada Value Village. So our big
Mm-hmm.
thing, we try to hit as many value villages. We found some in Penticton, where all the rich people go and dump clothes. You
Yep.
can get some. We both walked out of there with some amazing stuff that had
Oh,
hardly been worn. I think
oh,
people
you
buy
can
stuff and the
clean
tags
up,
are
man.
still on them. And
Yeah.
we found stuff with the tags on them. It was
Yep.
amazing. And you pay nothing for it, like next to nothing. I think that's just thrifty.
That's fantastic. I see Ruby says
Yeah.
they've been displaced from home for 2 weeks now. So
Yeah.
Ruby, you know what? I'm not going to offer you empty words. I will just tell you that I think few people can imagine, what it means to once have something, and you
Mm-hmm.
think that you've got certainty, and then suddenly you've got nothing of that around you. So I hope that you would keep connected with everybody here. Really, really, really important. So now you mentioned, Vern, that the average person can't afford a shrink, and I
Mm-hmm.
know, because I mean, therapists are really expensive, and very often people can only afford them because they've got a blue chip medical,
Mm-hmm.
say a medical
Mm-hmm.
insurance, so forth. And it's the only reason why they can have it. And most people don't have access to that. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to pretend to be a therapist, because I am not. But I can tell you a few things that therapists help people with, and that is for free. But that is self-regulation, and that is getting a grip on your immediate world first. Very often when we're in crisis, we try to fix the big world out there, and we cry and scream about how the big world out there is unfair, and how it's too much, and how it overwhelms us. And in truth, the only thing that we have control over is our own behavior, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you probably agree that you can't even control what your wife is going to do or say, let alone what the world is going to do or say.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to um, mention four things. To me, inculcating structure into your life is a form of good personal hygiene.
Hmm.
Structure gives you something to hold on to. Structure is also magical in the way that it's repeatable. Not
Hmm.
magical in the demons and devils fashion, but it is truly brilliant. A good structure that you follow, a good set of habits, is something that's repeatable day after day, day after day. And it also institutes a life routine. And people love routine. Even those that say, oh, I'm a free soul, I'm a free spirit, I don't need people's rules. Well,
Hmm.
make your own rules that can become your healthy routine. So there are four pillars as far as I can tell. Every single day, in order to contain free floating anxiety, in order to contain negative thinking, unwelcome thoughts, etc., you need to take care of your mind every day. And I'll make some suggestions. You need to take care of your body, and I'll make some suggestions. You need to figure out what is your purpose, not your purpose in life, your big dream, your big dreams, but what is your purpose today? What do I want to achieve today? And what is achievable? And then, fourthly, you've got to do something about your relationships. So, those four things: your mind, your body, your purpose for that day, and have you worked on your relationships? And that will give your traumatized, busy mind plenty of good stuff to chew on.
Hmm.
Because they what they say about an idle mind, right? An idle
Hmm.
mind is scrambling around looking for trouble. But if you,
So,
yeah, go ahead.
well, I was going to say, you see, all those 4 points, a lot of those points, we, when we were Jehovah's Witnesses, for some of us, that's why we joined. That's why I joined when I
Of
was
course.
young. I was 18. I left my family. I needed a new family, and they had all this purpose and all this do-gooder stuff on
Mm,
the go. I didn't know anything about the Bible, so I got into it. It
yeah.
gave me purpose. Every day I was going out pioneering or going to a meeting or going out in service or going to an assembly. Every day we had stuff on the go. We had to do all the watchtower studies, the
Yeah.
pre-studies. We were busy.
Hmm.
And that's the way the religion kept us programmed. I realize that now, but then we get out of the religion, we have nothing.
Yes.
We lost our purpose. We left it.
But you
Kind of.
see,
We have to develop a new purpose.
as
But
broken as that structure was that you lived in, as
mhm,
dysfunctional as that religion was, it created a structure. So
mhm,
there's certain things that you can expect. They might not be the best, but at least if I do this, then that. That is the value of a structure. But I think what I've noticed with people that come from the Jehovah's Witnesses, very often they weren't allowed to figure out their own personal structure.
true
It
enough.
was a structure that was
Mhm,
imposed on them from the outside.
mhm,
And because you never exercise that muscle of figuring out what is a structure that'll work for me, because you're not
mhm.
allowed to do that,
No.
you go out into the world and you fall apart. Like,
Yeah.
what do they
Yeah.
tell people that want to leave the religion? They tell them, oh, you'll never make it, soon you'll be on the street taking drugs.
Yeah.
And 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 this happens because they never taught people how to take command of their own reality.
Do you know what
So
echoed through my head when
what?
I left? A
Hmm.
dog returning to its vomit. A dog
Oh, yeah,
returning.
they
That's
love
a
that line,
scripture
don't they?
they beat that into us. You
Mhm.
will be like a dog returning to its vomit.
Yeah.
And but the flip side of this, now that I'm out, right?
Mhm.
The flip side of this, what about the prodigal son? The prodigal
Exactly.
son went out. The father said, "Yeah, go here, have some money. Go." He took all his money, went and had,
And
I don't know what he did. He lived with
a prodigal
prostitutes or
life.
something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
And he
his
and he
father,
found forgiveness, right?
when he decided and chose to come home, his father had a big party.
Yeah.
Well, the
He
brother
found
was jealous.
forgiveness.
The brother got, there's a bit of another backstory on the brother, but
Mm.
the prodigal son, we should, Jehovah's Witnesses should, yeah, go out. The Amish do that. They send their young people in the world for 2 years,
Yeah, they
and if
do.
they still want to be Amish, they come back.
Mhm.
um,
So,
I think they have it backwards, but anyways, we have this. I got out and I started drinking alcohol. I became almost an alcoholic.
mhm,
I
mhm.
started smoking right away. Right away, I started. I wanted to do stuff and I grew a beard. I wanted to do stuff that was rebellious. I did not want to be identified as a JW. But the funny thing is, I would be smoking, driving down the street in Westlock, that little town, and I'd see a JW and I would hide the cigarette.
Yeah.
I was embarrassed. I didn't want them to know I was smoking because
So
that was a
so there
disfellowshipping offense, right?
there is this embarrassment. I noticed that with XJWs, there's still a very
Yeah.
predominant feeling of shame. Like
Yes.
shame comes really easily to them, right?
Hmm.
People feel, but because they come from a culture where you put shame on the congregation, you put
Yeah.
shame on your family, you put shame
Hmm.
on the religion, you put shame on the example that you should
Yeah.
give out to the world, and it
Yeah.
is a shame-based culture.
Yeah.
Whereas in the world
Sorry.
outside, Vern,
Hmm.
people don't govern themselves through shame. They govern themselves through what is my personal best, and am I reaching that personal best? And they're more inclined towards guilt, right? Sort of, if I don't do my personal best, then I feel guilty because I didn't serve myself properly. But it's a completely different world from a shame driven, because if you work from a shame driven perspective, what you're actually constantly doing is just staying out of trouble. You've got nothing to aspire to. You're just staying out of trouble, keeping your nose clean, right? And so now you hide your cigarette quickly,
Hmm.
because it'll bring dishonor on you,
Hmm.
or on your reputation.
I
So,
remember
mm,
Shauna and I, we lived together for a while before we got married.
yeah,
And so she had moved in, and then the one elder that came by to try to recruit me, at the time, and
mm,
I said, no, I'm not going to go back. And they
yeah,
did leave me alone. They couldn't disfellowship me because they had no reason to. I just
okay,
left.
yeah,
So, but then as time went on, they were coming to my farm until I put gates up. They were
okay,
coming to the farm. I wouldn't be home. Shauna was in the house. She'd answer the door. The brother would do his presentation, the elder, and she thought it was funny how he would have the Bible like this, and he would just flip to it. He'd flip. He would, they have the string in there, and he'd flip
yeah,
to it. Satan's in control of the world. I think that's one that he was trying to push on her that day. And I don't know if she took the magazines or not. I don't think she did, but she used to get called on when she was, years ago. She this was not new to her.
yeah.
She used to be a return. She was a return visit when she was before she had met me. They called
Okay.
on her. An old guy had called on her
Oh,
and
so
always give her the magazines, right?
she
Oh,
knew
she knew the
the
program.
process. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, anyways, I'd come home. I was working. I think I was working. I'd come home and I'd say, "Well, you didn't tell her that we were. You didn't tell him that we were living together. You didn't. and then I'd sit there. Well, for all he knew, you were the maid doing my house cleaning. Like he
Mhm.
can't judge, And I was all on this whole. My brain was going down the whole JW path of defense, and my good wife was sitting there. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Like what's wrong with you? We didn't talk
Well,
about anything.
I had
Yeah.
conversations with exJWs that would say to me, "Yeah, but the elders might come to my door," and I
Hmm.
would say, "And do what?" Right?
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
because as an outsider,
That's
I
what Shauna
go,
would always say.
I go, they're just a dude. It's just a person, and with weird opinions and a weird belief system. What are they precisely going to do to you? But the specter of having an elder on your porch as an XJW is utterly frightening because it brings back all that trauma right there in the moment, right?
Yeah. Well, here, just if you can you hold your thought, or are you going to
Sure,
lose it?
sure,
You're going to
sure.
lose it. Here's what
Absolutely.
happens in our heads. We not only think about that, and we think about that elder going back to the congregation, all the people we know, and telling them, "Oh yeah, Vern, he's left now. He's living with this girl. Blah
Yeah.
blah blah. He's a fornicator.
It's the shame
Oh,
again.
he kicked us off. We can't have a judicial meeting, so we can't disfellowship him.
Mhm.
We start imagining all of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
We do because we know that's what goes on in that darn religion.
Yeah.
Then we start building these whole stories in our heads. They're not true. None of that probably ever happened.
Yeah.
Probably those elders went back and said, "Yeah, well, we didn't get him there, but maybe we'll have another sheep." Maybe that's what was said. But we'll make up the worst story ourselves of ourselves.
A
And
lot, a lot of the drama in your
yeah.
head, not in your head, the majority of the drama in my head, in your
Hmm.
head, in anybody else's head, are projections into the future about experiences in the past. The
Yes.
drama, only 1% of the drama in your life is about what's happening
Hmm.
now.
Now, it's interesting that you brought this up because I'm just going to say when Sean and I were first together, I was right out of this Jehovah's
Mhm.
Witness stuff. This was back around 2012, 2013, 2014. And it was always on my mind. I would, if I was smoking, I would make sure they never
Mhm.
see me.
Yeah,
I remember one day I jumped out of the truck and they're doing their cart witnessing, and I gave them all shit and they packed up and left. I said, "You
yeah,
guys got fornicators as elders, this is a bunch of hypocrites." Anyways, they all knew me. And then eventually, what happened is my daughter quit talking to me. And I think what happened is they said to my daughter, "Your dad's an apostate." So she became
mhm.
embarrassed. Her dad's an apostate, and then we start imagining this as individuals. I did. So, do you know what happens when we start imagining these things? I found
What?
I would always see JWs. I'd see them in the grocery stores. I'd see them on the streets. I'd see them here. I'd see them there. When I finally got my brain out of it and I never even thought of them, I never seen them, never ran into
Exactly.
them.
We
It's like
see
the
what
law
we
of
expect to
attraction. We
see, right?
manifest it. We manifest what we think, I think.
I,
We
I,
spell
I,
out our
I
future.
I agree with you 100%. We, what we see is a projection of what's going on inside.
Hmm.
So I just want to get back to practicality. We were talking about the four pillars
Right.
of good personal hygiene. So I I don't want to recommend to people what they should do for pillar number one, their mind. I mean, I can mention options. Some people meditate. Some
Hmm.
people pray. I'm not saying you should, but if you do, it's a good thing. Or if it works for you, that's good. Some people do breathing exercises in the morning. Some
Hmm.
people listen to something that is utterly beautiful, like a beautiful piece of classical music. Some people read an inspiring passage. But you've got to find your sweet spot in terms of what gets your mind to go from chaos to quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, for me, in the morning, sitting down, breathing in and elongated outs, for a period of time sustained, in on the count of 4, out on the count of 8, and keep it going over a period of 2 to 3 minutes. Because this has been proven in the lab that it drops blood pressure, A.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? When your blood pressure drops, your whole endocrine system goes, oh, we're all right. We are all right. It lowers heart rate, drops blood pressure, and it actually regulates your inner organs that burn calories and so forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
It calms everything down. So you can go really deep with mind hygiene. Um, I personally, I wouldn't claim that I still do it, but there was a time where I put 20 minutes aside every single morning and I would meditate and it would reset my brain for the day. Because
Mm-hmm.
you've got to start on a blank slate. You cannot start your day with a mind in crisis, right? So that's pillar number one.
Can I
Pillar,
ask you a question on
sure,
pillar one?
go
So
ahead.
on pillar one, and I've tried the meditation stuff.
Mm,
I have, but I can't seem to. If I'm sitting there trying to, Shauna tells me to do it.
mm,
She can do it. But if I'm sitting there trying to meditate and breathe, I'm somewhere with my brain. I'm
yeah,
either
the
planning the
brain
day,
wanders,
or
right?
maybe I'm planning a movie, a video, or maybe I'm making up a discussion I'm having with someone. I make a lot of things up and I live in my head a lot.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's normal.
it is totally normal, and so people get discouraged because they think that that they think thoughts like, oh well, I just lack the knack for this, or I lack the discipline for this. It is also a muscle.
Okay,
The other day.
JW
Hmm?
org told us not to shut our mind off. They told us in studies, if your mind is blank, the devil can get in. So always have stuff going on in your head. Always be talking to Jehovah. Always be doing this.
Yeah,
Never be a blank slate for the demons. I don't know if anybody online heard this. They can let us know in the comments. But
and it
how do you
also
shut your mind off? How do you shut your mind off? I still to this day I have a hard time.
it also proves how little they understand about what
Yeah.
meditation is, because it is not shutting your mind off. It can simply be giving your mind something worthwhile to focus on and giving it total focus, total attention, right? So um, when you're deeply immersed in a movie, you're approaching a meditative state because you're completely in it as if you
Mm-hmm.
are living it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how I would typically meditate, because I'm not the kind of guy, empty your mind and reach Zen state. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
there, and I probably will never be there. But I would walk a pathway down a hill into an old house, down a deep stairwell, out a door at a little river, at a little stream, into a boat, and the boat would carry me until I'm on a shore, and I could climb out and I would walk up a path, and then I would sit on a rock on a hill, and I would look out and say thank you. That
Really?
was that was my personal little meditative journey every day, and I would close my eyes and breathe and make sure that I walk myself through that journey. Vern, when I get out of there, I am calm. And so that is not religion, it is science. If you can give your mind something worthwhile and interesting to focus on, solely that without any distractions outside, and you can walk yourself through a story. Try that, you know.
Well,
And,
as
you don't have
a
to empty your
JW,
mind.
as an
Mm-hmm.
exJW, when we were JWs,
Mm.
and I use this loosely, I don't know how everyone is, but when I was a JW, I would oftentimes think of the paradise. I'd think of that
Okay.
paradise because they programmed it into us. That's all
Yeah,
we
yeah.
had, right?
Mhm.
So we'd always go to the paradise. That was our spot. Maybe it was the Live Forever book. I'd think about that. And then it'd get boring. Then I'd
Mhm.
start thinking about building a house in the paradise and things like
Yes.
that. That's what I would do when I was a JW.
Well, that is probably that is probably a good start. You've got to start with what's accessible to you, right? So
Well, I do something different now.
tell me what it is.
Well, it's not. I don't think of the paradise because I believe it's all BS, all that
Okay.
stuff that I was
Well,
inculcated with. But I still do that. So what I imagine, we've been living here on this little farm for 5 years. Well, before that, we imagined living on a little farm like this next to the highway, having a farmer's market and doing all that stuff. We did it for 5 years. Everything we imagined has come true. So we sat here for 5 years and we're imagining what we want to do. We don't want to pay taxes. We don't want to do. And guess what? It all happened.
you
It's all
ideate,
happening now. We're living it.
you
Yeah.
ideate possibilities. It's good. I see.
So
Thrifty
I
Treasure says that.
imagine starting a channel. I
Mhm.
imagine starting a channel and it all happened. I imagine starting something like a Discord, it all happened. I imagine lots of things. I'm always somewhere.
And you should keep imagining, Vern, because your mind, not yours, but our minds, and
Mhm.
yours included, are mind blowing machines.
They
Your
are.
mind is the most sophisticated. You are riding a
Mhm.
Ferrari
Yes.
in your head.
A
That thing
wave.
is so
Yeah.
sophisticated.
Yeah.
And we merely drive around in first gear. We plod along
Mhm.
at 20 miles an hour,
Mhm.
pathetically. We have not harnessed what our minds are
Yeah.
capable of. I see Thrifty Treasure mentions that there are meditation exercises that are like stories and story yoga. Yes, 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 yes. Okay.
Um,
Mm.
I want to comment on this one, Thrifty
Yeah.
Treasure.
Mm.
For probably, I was in that religion for 3 decades. I'd go to these assemblies and I noticed it more towards the end on my notes. And
Mm.
I'd look at my notes and I had actually kept some of my old notes. I turfed it all finally. But
Mm.
my good wife, Shauna, we went through some of it and I wrote fish stories, believe it or not. I wrote stories, fictional stories at the assemblies instead of taking notes.
Yeah.
And I kept them. I thought they were interesting stories. The stories that they told at the assembly were boring.
Mm-hmm.
And if I wasn't doing that, I was sleeping. I
Mm-hmm.
was always nodding off. And that's what Thrifty Treasure said. I shut my mind off at the Kingdom Hall. Didn't
And
realize it.
didn't realize it.
Yeah, I think so many of us have been doing that.
Yep. There are many ways to approach mental hygiene. It really is really, really important, though, that you start to form a habit where
Hmm.
you do that exercise every single day. Do it for 3 weeks in a row without pause until it becomes a habit, until you can't wait to do it anymore. So I want to get to pillar number 2, body, physical hygiene. Now, I had a chat with
Hmm.
you a while ago, and I said, what are you giving your body in the morning so that it can withstand the stresses that will come during the
Hmm.
daytime? There will be
Yeah.
stresses, period. But how are you arming your body. And I mentioned to you, and this is not my idea, this is somebody way smarter, way more qualified than me that says, have a high protein breakfast in the morning.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying it must be eggs and 7 rashers of bacon and sausages. I
Hmm.
mean, watch your cholesterol.
Hmm.
But there's got to be substantive protein in
Hmm.
your breakfast in the morning and not carbohydrates so much.
Hmm.
Because carbohydrates spike your energy and then it drops you like a rock.
Yeah.
Whereas protein will sustain and eat an even sort of energy flow. So if by 11 o'clock the first crisis hits, your endocrine system can handle that abuse.
My
So
what? My what
your
system?
your endocrine system, meaning your liver, your kidneys, your lungs,
Okay.
and whatever it takes to process food in you.
Hmm.
It's anything to do with the releases of sugars. It's got everything to do with the releasing of hormones that including the fight and flight hormones, etc.,
Okay.
or the ones that kick fight and flight reactions off, like
Hmm.
adrenaline and cortisol, those
Hmm.
stress hormones.
Interesting.
That is your endocrine system.
Hmm.
And if you keep on feeding that thing cup after cup of coffee, which is a stimulant with sugar in it, which gets your blood sugar up, and you
Hmm.
eat donuts, you're asking for trouble. And how many of us do that?
Well,
Most.
it's interesting when you and I talked that last time.
Mm,
You had mentioned that, and when we got off that chat, my good wife and I were kind of looking at our schedule and what we do. We get up and we put the coffee on and drink the first coffee, and then we drink the second coffee. And
yeah,
well, pretty soon we're on to the third coffee, and your hunger pains goes away because
yeah,
you're on to your third coffee, right?
that's right. It
And
suppresses
maybe
hunger.
around lunchtime, I have a piece of toast, just a piece
But,
of toast.
but now your body is screaming. You suppress the screams with
Yeah.
coffee, but your body is crying out for actual nutrition. And now your endocrine system, the internals, are starting to make a plan. Okay, we've got to give him a little bit of this, we got to give him a little bit of that. And not good for blood sugar regulation. And blood
Oh.
sugar regulation is incredibly important for emotional regulation too,
Hmm.
right?
So
Now,
we started since you said that.
mm,
It's been about a week or two. We started making breakfasts. I have
yeah,
breakfast every morning.
yeah,
Eggs. I have one egg. I'll have
yeah,
one egg and then
it's
a
fun.
sausage patty and make my
Yeah.
own sausage McMuffin kind of a thing.
Mhm.
And that's about it. Never right off the bat. And you know what? I haven't had any episodes since then.
Really. I'm so
Hangry. I
glad.
think it's hangry. But I'm not saying that's my cure. I still have anxiety up here that it's dysregulation is what I'm dealing with. I got to learn to regulate. And that's the
Well,
title is emotional dysregulation that we're talking about.
exactly. But we think to be able to better emotionally regulate, you've just got to be a better person. And Vern, you've just got to try harder and don't be such an asshole. You know. So that is how people attack it. No, you've got to be kind to yourself.
Hmm. Yeah.
You need to get your mind in order in the morning and at night before you go to sleep, and ask for good
Hmm.
dreams, by the way. You've got to get
Hmm.
your body in order in the morning and and care for it during the day. There's another body thing. Folks, we've got to exercise a little bit. So what I
Yeah.
started to do now, man, I love coffee. So I get up in the morning, I have my first cup of coffee, rocket fuel. I always have a protein breakfast. But now I want my second cup of coffee badly. And I've decided, okay, I've got to earn my second cup of coffee, and I do
Cool.
push-ups to earn my second
Hmm.
cup of coffee. I can't tell you. It's now been about 2 weeks, because I used to do this my lifelong, and I got really slack. But I can't tell you what this has done for me. Like I drop and I do 40 push-ups as well as I possibly can. You get up from there, you feel like you can kill a bear.
Hmm.
That is a good thing. Now,
I
if
love
you're
it.
not a push-up type, hey, do squats, do sit-ups,
Yep.
go and walk and breathe
I'm
while
gonna
you walk
walk.
briskly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna try that. And I don't know when you want to come on again. If you do want to come on again,
Mm,
if you want to make this a regular thing, when
sure.
we come on again and do this, I'm gonna start tomorrow. First cup of coffee, second cup of coffee, my reward. uh, I got to go for a walk. Now we do have nice
Exactly.
walking paths on the farm. There's always nice places to walk, and it's good to get out, get some fresh air, get the sunshine if it's out. Yeah, I love
I'm a
it.
little bit of a lazy guy,
Earn it.
I've gotta make myself earn my
Hmm.
rewards because otherwise I'll
Yeah.
just swig them back, one cup of coffee after the other, like a typical lazy guy.
How
But
do I
now,
earn that third cup of coffee?
but I'm not kidding you. So now I go I go do my 40 push-ups and I have that second cup of coffee. Halfway through that second cup of coffee, I go, let me do another 10. And then, so I get a little bit obsessive about that, but
Hmm.
it is unbelievable what it does for your physique,
Hmm.
but also for your physique up here, the biggest muscle, right?
Amazing. Yeah.
So any form of slightly strenuous daily exercise has better regulatory effect, especially in terms of depression, than Prozac. It's
Hmm.
been proven that regular cardiovascular exercise actually outperforms or at least performs equal on par with Prozac. So,
Hmm.
I mean, surely that's got to count for something, right? And it's right in you and it's for free.
Hmm.
But the bonus to that is that you've taken command. You're not just passively taking a pill, you're taking
Hmm.
command of your engine. The third pillar, so we've got mind, pillar one,
Hmm.
body, pillar two. Third pillar, you've got to set a goal. You've got to have a purpose for this day. I'm not talking about your purpose for life, that I'm going to rule the world one day or I'm going to be the best ballerina or anything like that.
Hmm.
Small purposes that are achievable. By the time sun sets today, I want to have done this and that. Two highly
Hmm.
achievable items. Because as we know, life flies, right? Time flies.
Hmm.
And you can sit there and mull around and scroll through YouTube shorts
Hmm.
for an entire day, like literally hours go by.
Hmm.
Do what is unpleasant first. Make sure that your unpleasant tasks are done, and then set a goal for a task that will make you feel, you know what, this was a good day at the end.
Hmm.
And then the fourth one is you've got to tend the garden with your relationships. If you know that there is something that your wife would like you to talk to her about, go and tell her, I think we should talk about this, even though it's going to be uncomfortable. Or if there's nothing of that sort, have you actually done something that your wife wishes you would do for her? You've got to do something in your relationship. They say that you love people through your actions. And
Hmm.
Have I acted out my love for the person with me, whether it's a spouse or whether it's your children or whether it's a friend, if you're totally single, or a parent, or a, a kind deed to a stranger. But you've got to nurture by choice how you interact with other people. So those are basically the four, as I say, basic housekeeping, basic hygiene, where and in each one of these four elements you take command of your environment. It's because we can only control what we can control. And so let's start controlling it: the mind, the body, the purpose, and the people. And so so that is what I basically wanted to in the main, that is what I would have liked to share today. We spoke about the stress response, where people become hyper vigilant and they have emotional and physical stress, and then it messes up the way they think and messes up the way they speak and it messes up the way they act, right, in that whole stress response.
Mhm.
This basic stuff creates structure so that you're a stronger person to withstand the stresses of life. So those are a few thoughts, Vern.
So I think that was great. So I want to, in my mind, go over all four of them. So I
Sure.
know that I got this.
Mm,
So the first one, when I get up in the morning, look after my mind. So that's
mm,
where I could try to quiet my mind down and
yeah,
do these breathing exercises. If I just start, I noticed if I'm focusing on the counting of the breathing,
yeah.
my mind's busy. My
Okay.
mind cannot think of all the other stuff because I was just doing it here, and
You,
you kind of get into a meditative state just focusing on that breathing, like you said.
you're giving your busy and up to no good mind something to focus on.
Hmm.
You know how we deal with a naughty child, right? You give them something to keep them busy, and then they become quiet and they play happily
Hmm.
because they've got something to focus. Your mind is a naughty child. It's a rambunctious child.
Hmm.
Give it a toy to play with, like breathing, like
Hmm.
counting the breaths. Right. Yes,
Hmm.
you've got it.
Or a mantra. I used to do that years ago. I'd go for a walk and I'd even get my fingers going.
Hmm.
Every day and every way I feel better and better
Hmm.
every day. And I'd walk to the beat, and then my arms would be moving, and I'd
Hmm.
get that rhythm going. And it took a while. It was an Anthony Robbins thing I was following about 20 years ago, but
Yeah.
I felt great. I felt
It
great, and I
feels
started doing that
amazing.
every day, and I followed that program. And then you get lazy after a year of it, and I
Yes.
don't know.
And then
We
you
do that,
take
but
fast.
I want to talk about. I talked a lot about me. I wanted to talk about some in the comments before we go.
Mhm.
You
Sure.
have a few more minutes with us here today,
Absolutely.
Christiane. Great. Jay mentioned up here. He says he just went through 2 days of detox from alcohol. Got home yesterday. Wasn't going to share this, but since we're discussing it, and that's I found when I was right after I left, I was smoking, I was drink, I was punching through a bottle of rum every day almost. It wasn't
I
good.
just want to say to Jay that it is incredibly, man, you humble me because it's incredibly brave to tell people that this is where you are now, and then to own it. You know, I'm off a program for alcohol, and in many 12-step in 12-step programs, that's the first thing to say. Look, I'm not big enough to handle this. I need help. God help me, kind of a thing. And so that is an incredibly good step, and good on you, man. And may you do really well. Thank you.
Now, one of the other things Jay mentioned here, I thought was good. They tell us we're mentally diseased. You
Oh,
know, this is what we're. You see, so my daughter, who's in there right now, is told that your dad's mentally diseased. He's
yeah,
an
of course.
apostate. He's worse than Satan. He's the same as Satan. You know, that's what they tell. And so leaving this organization, we carry this guilt, this shame, I guess. We were talking about shame. We
Yeah.
carry that out. It's hard. So a lot
Well,
of us turn to drinking.
you know, it's like a self fulfilling prophecy. If people tell you that you're totally useless, especially if you rely on yourself, that you will become totally useless, then maybe for a while we'll behave like totally useless people, right? You've got to
Mm-hmm.
feel a little bit, you've got to live a bit. But a religion like this holds onto its adherents by fear. And
Mm-hmm.
so they will think of the worst thing that you will become if you leave us, right? Oh, you're mentally diseased. That is the highest form of shame. And they use shame and fear the whole time. So it to me, it's an indicator of how weak the leadership in that faith is, how weak they are. Because if they can't frighten you, they've got no control. They don't have a compelling message at all. Yeah, yeah, I'm glad that you're doing better, Jay. Awesome. Thank you. Keep going and keep the structure, right, Jay? Every day, by choice, build little habits that build a tiny little house of, 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 of structure in your life. Okay. You know,
Yeah.
Vern, you didn't you so you said so the you said you wanted to revisit the four pillars. You said the
Yeah.
mind,
The
the body.
mind. So the
I
second one,
know.
the body, I'm going to
Yeah.
do the walk. Like you were
Mm,
doing your push-ups, I'm going to do the walk.
mm, mm.
Jay, we invite you to work with us, Jay. I'm this is brand new. We got someone here to coach us, so let's do this.
Yep.
Let's do it together. All anybody out there, let's do this together.
And set
So
an
I'm going to
accessible
reward
goal.
myself with the coffees. I
Yeah.
like that.
Set an accessible goal. Don't hurt yourself. Okay, you
Yeah.
know what your abilities are, but you know what? If you just do 5 push-ups tomorrow, it's five more than you've ever done. Okay, that's
Hmm.
how I think about it. If you walk a half mile, it's probably a half mile more than you've done yesterday and the day
Yeah.
before. You can only compare yourself against your own self yesterday.
Yeah.
Don't compare yourself to other people.
Yeah. And our whole
Good.
body works better, you know, or
It
we
does.
just flush
Hey,
out
Vern, your
better.
body is your house, man.
Yeah.
You've got to keep the thing clean somehow.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
the
so the
third,
third one.
third pillar, purpose.
Third one was okay, let me the first one was breathing, meditating, kind of creating our mind. The second one was the body. The third one was help me out here.
It is
I got a
what you're
mental
going to
block.
do today. It's your purpose for today or
Oh
your
yeah, our
goal for
purpose.
today. Yeah.
So that's easy for me. I'm always looking on videos, JW.org. You know what we do as YouTube guys. But let's say I wasn't a YouTube guy. Let's say in my before I started doing YouTube,
Mm,
I was installing security cameras for farmers.
mm,
So I would be looking for my next meal ticket because it's just those only last for a few days. You know, you go out and do a camera system and
yeah.
hopefully you
Yeah.
get a couple of them a month to live. So you're always looking for your meal ticket.
And that is your purpose for today. I need to install this many. I
Yeah,
used to do
or
it
whatever.
also. I used to be in a sales career for a while, for a long time.
Hmm.
And I knew that if I wanted a good weekend, I better make sure that my Friday goes incredibly well. Otherwise, I
Hmm.
eat myself up over the weekend. Like you just
Hmm.
regret and self-recrimination and even depressed and whatever. So my Fridays my entire week was honed towards having a Friday where I just blow the doors off. Uh, with good calls on great customers where I already have good relationships, so I can go Friday, done.
Yeah.
Yes.
So now, here's what I would say to the audience out there that's watching. If you need purpose, there's all kinds of things we can do as activists, because we are kind of all of that. We go into the Google thing and do our Google reports. Write that letter. JM gave us that letter thing that we write to the government. Have we
Mm-hmm.
done that? You see, if the government doesn't hear from us exJWs, have we done the survey with the mental health people in Switzerland or something? I did that. It was like, took about an hour or two. You do this survey, and they want exJWs all over the world.
Yeah.
We're a rare commodity, and they're studying us. So, are
Mm-hmm.
we willing to leave ourselves open to being studied? We can look for these things and help the world realize that this cult has casualties, and the casualties are a result of the shunning and the
Mm-hmm.
removing policies, the cycle. What did you call it? Psychological abuse. That's what they're
Yeah.
calling it.
Exactly.
Psychological abuse.
Yeah.
We're all suffering from it. So we need purpose. If we don't have purpose, there's lots of purpose as activists. Educating ourselves, that's even a purpose, just fixing our brain, undoing those false doctrines. That's a purpose in itself.
Hey, you know what? If you set that goal of I want to learn something that I don't know yet, go
Yeah.
and read on a topic that helps with emotional regulation, or go and read on a topic that helps with your abilities
Mm-hmm.
to be more confident in public, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, whatever your goal is, but
Mm-hmm.
do a bit of it every single day,
Yeah.
right? Set a goal, 4 pages I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to read, a chapter I'm going to read,
Yeah.
or I'm going to write in my journal what my thoughts were today and what I could have done differently. That is a
I
goal
like
as
that. Yeah.
right. What were my thoughts and what could I have done differently? Because you're rewriting the script in
Yeah.
your own mind.
Well, I think we can rewrite our life if we write things down.
Of
We
course.
can, and I think it's important we take the past and we say, okay, let's rewrite it. Let's rewrite. We don't have to repeat the past, but if we don't rewrite it, we end up repeating it.
Yeah,
We can end up
absolutely.
repeating it if we don't rewrite it.
You've got to rewrite it, and you know, whether you still believe in God or not,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter. But if we say that in a manner of speaking, we are created in the image of the Creator,
Mm-hmm.
you know what is the fundamental characteristic of the Creator? Creating.
Mm-hmm.
You are a
I agree.
creative monkey.
Mm-hmm.
We are
We're
creative.
all. Mm-hmm.
We are creative beings. That is your fundamental characteristic. And so you can create your future by how you think and how you tend to your garden.
Yeah.
I just want to highlight something here. Artsy Kim says, drink enough water so that the synapses of your brain and nerves work right. Man, I'm so glad that she mentions that. Dehydration blocks it, and coffee and alcohol actually dehydrate us. Thank you,
Mm-hmm.
thank you, thank you. Drink a lot of water. I don't drink vaguely enough water. I get my water with coffee and beer, right? But I'm kidding. It's really, really important that we make sure that, like, your cells need a certain kind of fuel. We've spoken about the food, but we haven't spoken about the water. So great.
And
Don't
that gives her these dreams, I'm thinking.
Okay, sometimes have these really cool recurring dreams of living in a castle next to a loch, and my room overlooks on the loch. Okay, I go there, have stuff.
I want some of Artsy's Kim's water.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know what you put in your water,
I know. I know. I'm just trying to be
It's
funny.
a beautiful dream, though, and
It
and you
is.
when you go to bed, you can decide that you're going to dream that again. You can ask to dream that again, because it's your respite.
Hmm.
It's your little getaway, and you've earned it. You've had a hard enough life. So,
I like that.
just your final pillar,
Okay, I
relationships.
have that. Yep. Now, what I found since we did the holidays, I found that my good wife and I ended up talking more. I opened up more, told her
Ah,
more of what was in my mind, and I
mm,
felt a lot of relief. There was two
yeah,
times I did that. The day that I started writing the book and started talking and sharing about my JW life and writing it all down, because I hadn't done that with my good wife. I really ran away from the JW religion. I tend to run
yeah.
from things. I don't know if that's an exJW thing or me, but things aren't going good. Run,
I
go for
think
a
it
walk.
is. I
Anyway,
don't think it's an XJW or a U thing. I think XJWs and you run because, like other traumatized people, they've had enough of being up against an obstacle that is always bigger than them.
yeah.
You know, they've just had enough. You can only fight so many bears in your life, right? And
Hmm.
you start picking your battles. But what happens is you become passive over time. You're like, no, now I won't fight anything. I'm just going to lie in a corner and weep, and I'm going to take the easy road and sort of sneak by the obstacles that I should actually climb over. So it becomes a
Hmm.
bad habit. But it is because the person gets out of an environment like this and they're crushed totally.
Hmm.
They're crushed, and their self agency is totally crushed, and
Hmm.
then bad habits start forming.
Hmm. Well, that's
So
great.
mm, go
I thought
ahead.
that was good. No, I thought that's good. I'm gonna so I notice once you start communicating and get that stuff out, if you have a partner, and I often thought, boy, if I was in the org, what if you, for all the people that wake up, they wake up and they're in it, they look over, they got a mate, husband, wife, whatever, they might be deeply in love with their mate.
Mhm.
What do you do? How do you deal with that?
Yeah.
How do you communicate at that level? And if you start communicating, what's going to come back. They're going to think that you're gone whackers. You're demonized. You somehow, they're gonna suspect that the demons got to you somehow,
Yes.
because everything's blamed on the demons, right? How do you deal with communication at that level when you're married in there? You don't want to just up and run. I'm a runner. Not
I
everyone's a runner.
think it is a very, very difficult issue, and we'll probably have to push most of it towards a second or third or whatever, you
Show.
know
Yeah.
to show. But the thing is, Vern, I think the first thing that you need to recognize and acknowledge to yourself is that you're not working with somebody whose mind operates the way a normal mind operates.
Hmm.
Period. They have a set of logical, no, not logical. They have a set of rules of logic that actually doesn't apply in the real world.
The jade,
Right?
the org, the cults,
The
probably
org,
most cults.
the org, they
Yeah.
use a kind of logic that is actually completely useless if you want to have a real life.
Yes. Yeah.
They have a set of logic that is medieval. It's so damn primitive because it's just punishment and shame and fear. It's
Yeah.
just keeping your track.
It is medieval.
They have an authoritarian management system where Nobody has any say in anything except the magical guy with a wrinkly suit up top, him and his eight
Yeah.
brothers, you know,
Yeah. Well, 11 now.
or 11, whatever, big deal, right? They can be 111, they'll still be
Yeah.
basically impotent people
Yeah.
who only rule by fear because they own no real substance. They've not earned the right to run people's lives like this in any
Yeah.
manner. They've never really made anybody's life better.
I believe, and I could be corrected, but I don't believe any of the governing body members have had children.
Hmm.
Now, they're all married, but
Hmm.
only one of them has not even been married. Sanderson never married. You know,
Okay,
maybe he's homosexual. He hasn't come out of the closet. Won't get married. You
who
know, I don't
knows?
know. These guys pretend to be in a position to rule the world. I don't know. They must believe that stuff that's in their head. I
Hmm.
believed it. I guess I was in it, so I believed what was in my head. They must believe it. You know, once you get out, you start looking at them and you start wondering, how can they believe that? How
Well,
can
the
you
thing
believe?
is, I think, Vern, we know that because they are a business, they probably don't believe a lot of the stuff they tell you. And but they've got to keep the make believe up because it's a business model. It is multi-level marketing. So how do you keep your congregants in check? Well, you've got to give them such a narrow set of rules that you can easily enforce those rules, right? And that's
Mhm.
authoritarianism. You
Yeah.
remove options from people. So anyway, back to a spouse that you wake up to in the morning.
Mhm.
Well, the first thing you've got to remind yourself it is that it's not you that has become mentally diseased. It is you that is starting to heal or attempting to heal, and it is them that are suffering with mental disease. They are very often emotionally completely dysfunctional.
Mhm.
So I think we need to understand what we are working with, and we need to have a conversation with ourselves about what am I really here? I'm the
Mhm.
person that's starting to see the light. So
Mhm.
I am mentally less diseased than I was yesterday. And here I'm dealing with somebody who actually is still totally in the grips of an illusion.
Yes.
So, but we can get into things later in a sec in the next
Second show, yeah, because I have that leads opens up a whole pile of questions for me.
yeah. how
Like,
how do you even start a conversation with a person like this? Should you
well, but
start a conversation with them? And
what?
what do you
Here's what
talk
happens. I left the org, and I
about? Mhm.
started smoking and drinking. Right, I'm
Yeah,
a smoker and a drinker now. Did all disfellowshipping offenses. I wasn't disfellowshipped, but I was a private closet smoker, a closet drinker. I did it out at the
sure.
farm. There
Hmm.
was no Jehovah. I wouldn't do it around a Jehovah's Witness because I didn't want to get disfellowshipped.
Hmm.
And then I was living common law, and I kept that really secret from
Yeah,
any JWs. Right, you keep that secret because we have all this guilt. So now they're mentally diseased. So I say to them, "You're mentally diseased." They say, "Look, you're the one that's diseased. You're a smoker. You're a drinker.
mhm.
You're committing fornication. Look at you. You're the one that's diseased. I'm living a righteous life," they would say. You see,
But your
that's
goal should not be to win the argument. It is an
mm,
unimportant argument. It really is, Vern. It doesn't matter whether you will never convince them. Part of self agency is believing that you are allowed to believe what you believe, is believing that you're allowed to do what you choose to do. And you don't need external validation, especially not by a deluded person, to
mhm.
be all right. You're fine. You're enough. You are
Well,
more than
I think that's a good discussion for next show. I think that'll open
absolutely.
up a we'll open that up. So if we want to look at any more comments, and I think we're at the
Mhm.
1.5 hours. So if we can look at some more comments here if you want. Is there any more
So,
that you see
yeah,
that
let's end with that.
okay, climb here's one Steen one says climb a 10-foot ladder a million times a day. It'll keep you fit. So yeah, I was doing that, climbing up
Yeah.
ladders. It was good. You don't think about anything else when you're working
Well, at least you go
until
to
you go
bed.
to bed at night.
At least you go to bed tired. Yeah.
Yeah, for the most part.
So, um,
Uh,
educate healthcare professionals. It's interesting trying to explain blood and shunning to that. Yeah, Jay, I can imagine. Like these things with the blood laws or the blood rules and shunning. It's not even well understood by the outside world. We hear about it and we go, "What?" And we're shocked that something like this even exists.
I
Yep.
know. It's medieval. That's
Hmm.
like Aztecs getting their firstborn to rip their hearts out and put them over a cliff or something. Like, well, to deny your child medical treatment that could save your child's life, right, is no different than the Aztecs blood sacrificing their children. It's a
Yeah.
blood sacrifice. It's over blood. Anyways, that's another discussion.
Here's a comment by Artsy. There's therapy to try to face things little by little. I really want to just highlight that. Um, yeah, Artsy, it deals with desensitizing, desensitizing yourself, and you expose yourself to something that is fear provoking just as much as you can, and then you walk away and you go, good. And then you do it again and you go, good. It's like people who have a fright of elevators, for instance. Like
Mm-hmm.
the first time, the therapist will literally just walk out in the hallway with the person and go, let's just go look at the elevator. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe if you feel like it, we're going to watch people get in and out of it. Okay, enough for
Mm-hmm.
the day. Go back, chat.
Yeah.
Next day, let's go and stand a little closer. Hey, next day, you push the button. I'm not kidding you.
Mm-hmm.
You work in tiny, manageable increments. I know that many people from the exJW community have social anxiety, um, where they don't like to be in crowds and so on, and they tend to get really anxious around people that they don't know and so forth. Start with small groups, start by just taking a walk through a mall and then go back and do it again until it's rote, until there's no more threat detected in it. You've rewired your brain. Now maybe next time you're in a store, start a conversation with a shopkeeper or whatever. Little tiny things. Maybe that's not a great example, but small incremental exposures.
Well, I think that's great. I think I'm getting the time clock here from my
Yep.
producer.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I,
So
I
we
I
gotta
see that we were exactly an hour and a half or just over. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd like to thank everyone out there for all your comments. Again, we want to. This is the first show, and I had I had a lot of fixing to do. I have a lot of fixing of myself to do. Now I realize what you're saying. I have to get up in the morning. I have to make the choice to breathe. My wife, I
Yeah.
can't. Yeah, I can't say, Shauna, are we going for a walk? It's not
No.
up to her. It's up to me. I have to just
Precisely.
put my boots on and go for a walk if I want that second coffee.
Remember, I said to
That
you,
works.
I can't fix, but I can help. I can help you
Yeah.
think around these issues. That's the only thing that I can possibly do. I can have a conversation with you. When you fix your thinking, you also
Hmm.
fix your outside world, and that is the only thing you can do. So
Yeah.
listen, man, I want to thank you for having me. This was fun.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And my good wife says thank you.
Thank you. And everybody loved it. Thank you so much, Christian.
Yeah.
Great practical advice.
And thanks to your good wife,
Yeah.
JM.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And everyone online. So
Yep.
yeah.
Good to see everybody. Thank you so much.
Together we're stronger. So okay, I'm gonna roll my outro here, but I gotta take the comments off. There, I got rid of the comment. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're gonna see everyone next time. We'll let you know when we post it, when next time is. And until next time, keep living your day with love. Bye for now.
Thank you, Vern. Bye-bye.
And thank you, Christiane. No, I really don't have an outro to run.
Your intro again.
My intro?
Yeah,
okay.
Go for it. It was so well done.
Here we go. See you guys later. Bye for now. Welcome to a new broadcast, exJW Soundboard. You may all remember the podcast we have featured on our channel called The Way Forward, hosted by Madeline and Christian. Well, Christian will be joining us live. Christian works every day as a life and career coach and has a deep interest in interpersonal dynamics. A few thoughts from Christian. He says, I help people think. I'm a critical thinking partner and a soundboard. I cannot fix, but you can choose to change your thinking. Changed thinking fixes the world, inside, and as a result, outside. So please join us on exJW Soundboard as Christian helps me navigate some of the issues I've been dealing with since leaving the Watchtower. We'll see you there.